What up, squad? We're back. We made it. Alien 3 from 1992 is what we're talking about today. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, I appreciate it more than you could possibly imagine. This is episode 3, and we're doing Alien 3. Episode 1 was Alien 1979, and Aliens 1986 was episode 2. And thank God they've gone flawlessly. I'm so happy with them. This is episode 3. It's also the third time I've pressed record with my face and my voice and something to say. So I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart for being here. What I'd say is if you haven't been here before, we're going to do a ginormous deep dive on Alien 3. My passion is films, and this series is one of my favorite series in the world. So the format that we're going to go with, which I've been doing, is pulling up the movie shot by shot. So not every frame of the movie, but every shot of the movie, there'll be a still frame from. And what I use is my friends over here at Shot Deck. Now, I'm not sponsored. I don't get paid. I actually pay for this service. Shout out Shot Deck. But what we'll do is we'll go through the movie frame by frame. And if you see here, I could pull up a shot from every frame of the movie. And they're all in HD quality, and it has a lot of info about them. We'll pull it up full screen. But if you want, if anyone's interested, if there's any real cinephiles or film lovers out there, there is for every shot great information about the movie down here at the bottom from a technical level. So we have the camera that was used was RE765, Panavision Panaflex, Panavision Platinum. The lens they used was a Panavision C lens, Panavision E series. Aspect ratio is 2:3:5 anamorphic. Film format shot on 35mm. Film stock. It's got a lot of great information. Director, production designer, cinematographer, time period, when the shot is in the movie. So I really do love this tool. And I've been using it for these deep dives and breakdowns so that I can get through everything. And being as I'm so passionate about this film, every shot reminds me of something that I know from behind the scenes, making of, how it was done, what I think about that section of the film. So it's just the format I like, and we'll be doing that. But before we get there, let's pull up IMDb here. And what I've been starting with is the teaser trailer. And it's usually in like a VCR, VHS kind of 35mm print format. And I really like them because it's what audiences would have seen in 1991 when this trailer came out. The movie came out in 92. So let's go ahead and watch it and see what we're working with.
In case you forgot. The bitch is back.
Let's go.
It's here. We have no weapons of any kind.
This thing is really ticked off! Come on! Run as fast as you can!
For the last time.
Alien 3.
Let's fucking go, guys. The bitch is back was the tagline for this movie, which they say there in the beginning. Alien 1979 was in space, no one can hear you scream. And in Aliens 1986, it was this time it's war. And for this one, the tagline was the bitch is back. And you can see on the poster here, it does say 3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror. And it is singular again. They went from Alien to Aliens. Now it's Alien 3. Or as some of the community calls it, because the 3 is always so small right there, ALIEN³ is what a lot of the community likes to joke that it's called. And if we pop over here to Rotten Tomatoes, we could see that this is, I believe, the most decisive film in the franchise. We got a 46% popcorn meter, which is the audience score, and a 44% tomato meter, which is the critic reviews. So more than half the people that watch this movie, I believe, hate it. And this would be a good time to mention, too, that there are several copies of this movie. There's Alien 3, the theatrical cut, which is what you'll get if you just kind of sign into Hulu and watch the movie. And it is available on Hulu or the Hulu tab in Disney Plus if you have that part now. And it's available for purchase anywhere. And there was a theatrical cut that released to the theaters that was kind of panned. And the community as a whole, I love it. But you'll be hard pressed to find anyone that really loves Alien 3 or that it's their favorite in the series. I don't think anyone's going to say that. But there is an assembly cut, which is called Alien 3, the special edition, I believe, if you go on digital to try to buy this movie. And the special edition or the assembly cut is my favorite version of the film. I think it's much more fleshed out. It adds back so much stuff that the studio cut out. And this is a dark film. It's goes back to the horror roots of it. It's definitely inspired by the director and what he would go on to do. And now we'll scroll down to the director, who is David Fincher, right? And actually, let's pop over to IMDb here for this part of it. So the director, we got David Fincher, and this was his first feature film, right? So he went on to direct Seven, which I know most of you guys have seen with Brad Pitt, Zodiac, Gone Girl, The Social Network. But because he's done so many great things, let's actually pull up his previous work. So his latest movie is The Killer on Netflix, which is really good. I watched it. It's with Michael Fassbender. He plays an assassin. Great. What I would know him for is definitely Gone Girl, was a pretty big hit recently. House of Cards, he's the creator, and he filmed I want to say the pilot or the first episode to kind of set up the tone for that whole series. So House of Cards is definitely him. He did a remake of The Girl and the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. These are his directing credits. We have Panic Room from back in the day, Fight Club. Come on now. I mean, Seven. And I believe Seven is what he went on to do after Alien 3. But he was known before Alien 3 for lots of music videos. He was kind of a music video director, and he won some awards for his music videos. We'll pop up his photos here. So here he is directing Kevin Spacey on the set of House of Cards. That's what he looks like now. That's a current picture. And if you could tell by those movies I listed, he has a very specific tone. And it shines through in this movie where you could tell that even though he was a first-time director and he famously had a horror of a production on this movie, he still to this day doesn't talk about it, kind of hates it. And you could tell, it comes through in the film that he fought for this film. So the script was kind of out of his hands. It was a mess. They only had, I think they started shooting with 25 pages of the script. And there were plenty of previous incarnations of this movie. So all that is available, I think, done better by other people. So there was there were 6 different scripts, I believe. One took place on a wood planet that had kind of a technology core, and it was a bunch of monks living on it. That one very, very nearly closely got made. There's a William Gibson script that they've turned into a comic book and into a book and into an audible drama where the actors came back to actually voice the parts. And to be honest, you can go really in depth on all of those, but this version of the film is my favorite. Whether it's the theatrical cut or the special edition, which is the assembly cut. And now it's not called the director's cut because I know we're still on the first frame here. Let's go to the second frame. So this is the beginning of the movie when Ripley's escape vehicle detaches from the Nostromo. The beginning of this movie sets up a very dark, very horror, very suspenseful and dangerous start to the movie. Now, the end of Aliens has a very happy, nice ending. And it ends with Ripley and Newt and Bishop the android and Sigourney Weaver's Ripley all kind of going off as a new family. She has a surrogate daughter in Newt. She has a new love interest in Michael Biehn playing Hicks, and the android Bishop is with them. And this movie just starts off with they're all dead immediately. And this is most people's problems with this movie. They want a version of this movie where those characters lived and they go on to be a team. But in my personal humble opinion, I think this was the way to go for a movie called Alien in this series. I don't really want to see that movie. I've kind of seen the script for it. I've listened to the book. Neil Blomkamp was famously going to do an Alien 5 where he ignored this movie and just went on to what would have happened after Aliens. And I prefer this version. I prefer them all to die at the beginning and get rid of them. I don't think they were that fleshed out of a characters, and that's kind of blasphemy in the Alien community to say Newt and Hicks aren't great characters. It's that they are great characters in Aliens, in that movie, under those circumstances. But when you get to an Alien 3, I don't think we need to see Ripley with a team. I don't think they really add anything. I prefer this version that we got. And I know I'm in the minority because most people do not love this movie. As we saw with the tomato score, the critic reviews, I'm in the community a lot. I know this is very divisive. I think it's gained some traction over time because in 2003, we'll hop to the next scene here. So in 2003, for the DVD copy of this movie, they did the Alien quadrilogy, where they added all sorts of special features and the movies were cleaned up and the original prints were reworked. And I love that version. And then for the Blu-ray version in 2010, they did the Alien Anthology, which the Alien Anthology was another pass at the movie to clean it up and make it look as great as possible. And I don't care what version of this movie I get. I love them all. I grew up with these movies, especially 1, 2, and 3, which is the one I've covered so far. I grew up with these movies being on replay on VHS, and I absolutely adore them. Now, if we go back to IMDb, I'd like to go over the cast really quick, because this cast is like a Shakespearean cast. You could do a Shakespeare play with this cast. You could do almost any type of film, any type of play, anything you wanted with these classically trained actors, and I think they do deserve all due credit. So I just want to go through them really quick. So Sigourney Weaver, of course, this is her third time reprising the role of Ellen Ripley, and I do believe this is the first producer credit that she had on one of these films, so she did have a lot of input and a lot of say-so on the script, on the character, and people at this point kind of really respected her. So Sigourney Weaver got a very small amount for Alien, the original movie in 1979. For the sequel, she famously asked for $1 million, which was the highest, made her the highest paid actress for one movie in history at that time. And I want to say for Alien 3, she asked for $4 million and a producer credit and input on the movie. So you could see kind of where her career had progressed from the original Alien. Charles S. Dutton plays Dylan, who is an extremely good character in this movie and an extremely good actor to pull from his personal life and to play this kind of character who's as he says in the movie, a rapist and murderer of women. And the reason that is obviously because they're on a prison, what used to be a prison planet that's now they're custodians for, caretakers. They chose to stay there because of religion. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, I would suggest pause this, add it to your watch later, and go watch this movie. I would say the entire trilogy of these films is some of the greatest cinematic experiences you could have. Now, with that said, this movie gets really dark, where I've done these videos on 1, 2, and 3 now, and I love them. It's my favorite series, but I am glad to get on to something else, because this is a tough watch, these 3 movies. There is a lot of emotions. It could be dark. There's a little levity, but for the most part, by the time you get to Alien 3 and finish it, he's gone as dark as you can go with this material, I believe, the director David Fincher. And it turns into like a horror movie, and he's the director of Seven, so it's kind of like Seven in space, this movie. So just do be warned, they're great cinematic experiences, but you're going to have to be in that mind frame to watch them. And I think what we're going to do next is go on to Predator 1987, which is kind of your classic action movie. It stays with the cryptid films motif, it follows up Alien. And I think that's what we're going to do next. And I also would love to do Jordan Peele's Nope, is one of my favorite newer films. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So back to the cast. We got Charles S. Dutton played Dylan. The impeccable Charles Dance. Most people probably know him these days from Game of Thrones, I would imagine. My generation probably knows him as the man with the glass eye in Last Action Hero, the assassin. That's one of his famous roles from when I was a kid. So right off the bat, we're getting great actors. Paul McGann plays Gallic, and he has a much bigger role in the assembly cut. He has a whole arc in the assembly cut versus the theatrical cut. I won't get into the whole thing today, but as we go along, maybe I'll point out some extra scenes that he had. But he was a much bigger character in the original cut of the film. Brian Glover plays Harold Andrews, which is the superintendent. Ralph Brown as Francis Aaron, who they affectionately call 85. They explain in the movie it's because they snuck a peek at his records when he came in, and that's his IQ is 85, so that's what they call him behind his back. Danny Webb plays Morse. Christopher Fields plays Rains. Holt McCallany plays Junior. Lance Henriksen reprises his role as what's credited as Bishop 2, but I do believe it's the creator of the Bishop android, a real-life human. But there are fan theories, and there is discussion about that in the community, so I'll leave it up to you when we get there. But Lance Henriksen definitely does reprise his role as Bishop. So coming back to where we're at in the movie here. So the Sulaco had an egg in it. The beginning of this movie, the entire opening, is so cool and sets the mood so well, I think, and it's so well shot. The 20th Century Fanfare at the beginning, 20th Century Fox Studios, they have the famous logo on the fanfare. The fanfare changes at the end to a very dreadful, ominous tone. So I love that it starts just like that. There's a montage at the beginning of the movie of the four characters in cryosleep from where we left them in Aliens, exactly picking up right there where they're on the Sulaco in the cryotubes. And you could see the face hugger running around the ship, and you could tell it's attached to someone's face. Like I said, if you haven't seen this movie, please stop watching this and go watch them immediately. Alien, Aliens, Alien 3. So we all know, I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are, but I love that opening of the film. I think it sets the scene perfectly, and I do think it was the right decision to kill those characters, and I want to apologize for it. I know the community is kind of against me there, and everyone wants their kind of fan fiction fantasy of having those characters back, but I think this was the way to go. So moving on the film, we get the EEV, which is the escape vehicle, detaches from the Sulaco, comes down to this planet because there was a fire on board. And I believe, in my opinion, the fire was caused by, we see the cryo tubes cracking and a facehugger alien on board. And I believe it cut itself. You could see alien acid blood kind of leaking through the floor and starting an electrical fire. So I believe we see the glass crack. I believe it probably cut itself and dropped some of that acid. So the EEV attaches from the Sulaco, crashed down to this planet, and we have this scene, and this is all from the theatrical cut, what we're viewing. So like I said, I prefer the special edition in the assembly cut. I think it's a lot more meatier. There's a lot more to it. It fleshes out a whole lot of scenes and characters. But what we're seeing here are shots from the theatrical cut. So we have Bishop the android there in the foreground, and we have Hicks, Ripley, and Newt's cryo chambers, and you could tell one of them are dead right off the bat. And the assembly cut has a lot more of the dead bodies. You kind of see Newt Newt's like not looking good, the little 9-year-old girl, and you see Michael Bihn's head crushed in, and they drag Ellen Ripley out of there. And there's a lot more to that scene in the special edition. There's a lot more of them pulling her in, and a bunch of oxes pulling in the EEV from outside, and a lot more of the surrounding planet. So I do love the special edition for that. So we've got a lot more in the special edition as compared to the theatrical edition. Here we get the first shot of one of the prisoners, and they have dragged Ellen Ripley in. And a great story is that Michael Biehn, the actor that played Hicks and Kyle Reese in Terminator, but Hicks in The Last Alien, he had a friend who went to the studio where they were filming this, and she informed him, "Hey, I saw a life-size mock-up of you, like a full um, dummy of you with your face. So I think they're planning on having you in the film somehow or having you be killed." He said, "Oh, really?" He called his agent up right away and told them they need to pay him for his likeness because he owns the likeness to himself and his face, and that's his property and his intellectual properties. So they made a big fuss about it, and they say, "All right, well, can we at least?" He said, "No, you can't have it in there for any amount of money. I don't care. I'm not having I'm not having an alien come out of me or anything happen to my character and my face in the movie." So they wound up saying, "All right, well, can we pay you for a picture, to use a picture?" So when it's going through the survivors here, like here we see it says Lieutenant Ellen Ripley with her picture. It does flash up a scene with Michael Bihn's picture, and he said he got paid almost as much for that as aliens. So they wound up paying him out. And the 2010, I believe, and Alien Anthology edition of this movie doesn't have the picture because I think they didn't want to pay him again. So they've actually taken his picture out of the movie. But we see Ellen Ripley coming in here looking like she did at the end of Aliens, same haircut, same clothes. And now we get the population of this prison planet, which we don't know at this point is a prison planet, but they're discussing what's going on. And you could tell that they are thrown into disarray because their lives are the same every day. They've gone off into the ass end of space to follow a religion. They don't want to leave. When they closed down the facility, they stayed there. I believe they stayed there with intention, like they wanted to. And it was to avoid any kind of sin, any type of pressure, any type of society. They didn't want any part of it, and they stayed here. So having a woman crash down out of the stars is not part of their everyday daily ritual. So to the right there is Superintendent Andrews. In the middle, we have 85, who is his second in command. And we have Charles Dance as the doctor. Ellen Ripley wakes up. I love the contact that they put in her one eye and the battle damage that they've done to her at this point in the movie. It matches David Fincher's movies exactly, what he would go on to do. And this is how characters look in his movie. If you think of Seven, things like that. She's still got her hair. And we get the burn on the cryopod when she's investigating what happened to the crew. And she could tell that it's an acid burn. Charles Dance notices that she notices it and doesn't understand what it is. And we kind of all know, I think the alien cut itself, breaking into the glass. Some acid fell, it started the fire. So she's picking up right now that there's probably an alien with them, even though she's not 100% sure. And the controversial decision, to say the least, to start this movie with Newt's, the little 9-year-old girl's death and her autopsy is dark, to say the least. This is not like date movie status. This is doing an autopsy on a little 9-year-old girl is just brutal. And that's the only way to put it. It's brutal. And like I said, I agree with the decision to kill off these characters and start this movie the way they started. But I don't know how I feel about the autopsy on the little girl, on Newt. The movie wouldn't be what it is without it. It sets the tone perfectly. It's dark. It's brutal. It's exactly up David Fincher's alley. It's what he wanted to do with this movie, going back to the horror roots of it. But it's a hard watch, and it's probably as brutal as anything we've seen in these movies so far. And you get a lot more of it in the special edition. And they built this life-size prop. They do the whole autopsy on Newt. And this is Superintendent Andrews informing the company, which is, of course, Weyland-Yutani. Building better worlds is their slogan. And they are the bad guys in these movies. For Alien and Aliens, the alien is an antagonist for sure. And it is the bad guy and the villain. And they're the most famous movie monster that's ever been created, I believe, at this point. Is that right? But the company, at the end of the day, I believe, is the real bad guy and villain of these movies. The Weyland-Yutani company will stop at nothing to get their hands on this alien, on this specimen for the bioweapons division. So we could see here, he's writing the company a message based on what happened. So Fury 161, Class C prison unit. We have report EEV unit, which is the escape craft with the serial number crashed. One survivor, Lieutenant Ripley. Dead Corporal Hicks. Dead unidentified female minor. So he's letting the company know that, and they are on the ball. I mean, almost immediately in this movie, they write back and say, do whatever you have to do to keep her safe. We're coming. We'll be there. No one is ever in a rush to be out to this horrible. I mean, this planet is like something out of Dr. Seuss's nightmare. I mean, it's brutal. They mentioned earlier it's going to be 50 below outside. They have to get in quick, so that kind of explains why no one's ever outside in this movie, because it's a harsh landscape. It's the temperatures fluctuate, and you just can't be out there. I love the sets in this movie. They started building these sets before David Fincher came on board, and before they had a script based on another script that they were going to do with that wood planet with the monks and the technological core and a bunch of monks that have gone out in space. So similar, you could see things carried over from that script to this script, but they had started building all these sets and all this stuff without knowing what the script would actually be and that it was going to change. So you could see a lot of remnants of the cathedral-like setting of that script and the big open spaces. You could see a lot of it in this movie, but they did a wonderful job of making this planet, which is a former mineral ore refinery. So in the first one, the Nostromo is tugging, I believe it's 20 million tons of mineral ore. This planet would have been like a refinery for that type of stuff, and it's since been closed down. They leave these guys here, I think, to deal with toxic waste. I think they bring them supplies and they bring them toxic waste to store. And it's a custodial staff of, I want to say, over 12, not more than 20 people are here in this movie at this point. So we get the autopsy getting finished up by Charles Dance, and she tells him that she's worried about an outbreak about a viral disease inside of Newt, and they have to be sure how she died. She knows she's looking for the alien when they cut her open, but she tells him, I believe, that cholera is what she's worried about. And because she was in cryosleep for 57 years, and because who knows how long has gone on now, he says the last reported case of cholera in this universe was like 200 years ago. So he's not believing it. He knows something else is up, but he knows when not to push, when to ask, when not to. And in the special edition, when he does notice she's getting so upset, I love that he asks, "Is this your daughter?" And Newt became her surrogate daughter, and she had lost her actual daughter in a deleted scene from Aliens, where they tell her daughter, because she was in cryosleep for 57 years, her daughter, Amanda Ripley, died of old age, and she missed it completely. She left when she was like 10. So I love that in the special edition, they add that little touch of him asking, "Is this your daughter?" Like kind of realizing it all of a sudden. And we get to Superintendent Andrews coming in, not too happy that they're conducting an autopsy. He knows the company's going to be there. He knows there's no rush. They have a daily routine. So seeing a child have an autopsy done and a woman running around, of course he's going to lock down on it. And he sure does. He tells her this is a place filled with vile, horrible, evil people, and we don't want you running around out there. We don't want you doing anything to upset the order. But Charles Dance does tell him we were worried about a viral disease like cholera. And they don't know that cholera is non-existent, so they kind of buy it. And he says her lungs are filled with water, just like he said. There's no alien in there. There's no sign of anything that killed her but the crash and drowning. So we get the famous burial scene where they incinerate the bodies into the huge furnace, and they say it's because there still might be a chance of disease, which he knows is not true, but this is what they tell them, because Ripley wants their bodies cremated. And we get this character Dylan giving a nice speech, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and he gives a nice speech about, like I said, if you haven't watched this movie, I don't know what you're doing here. Go and watch this movie. But when you're watching this movie next, or if you plan on doing it after this video, pay attention to his remarks in it. I think come right from the heart of the writer and the director. I think it has a lot to do with what this movie is actually about. And at the same time, as this speech is going on, we also have the birth of the alien from, in the theatrical cut, a dog, in the special edition cut, an ox. And we could talk about that a little bit, actually. So in the theatrical cut that we're seeing here, it's going to be birthed by a Rottweiler. And this was shot post-production in LA in reshoots. The original assembly cut of this film has it being birthed from an ox. One of the oxes that we see in their herd that's dragging the escape shuttle in the beginning. And I don't know which one I like better. At this point, I like them both. If you put on any version of this movie, I like that shot. I like it being birthed from the Rottweiler. I like that it's named Spike, and I like the scenes they added in that made it come from a Rottweiler. And I do like the ox scene. I think it's well done. I think it's framed well. It's shot well. Both are exquisite to me. I like them both. I'd be interested which one you guys like better, the birth from the Rottweiler or the ox. So let me know down in the comments below. This is also a good time to say, let me bring myself up here. If you're still here, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your heart. My channel is small. I have, at this time of the recording, I believe 503 subscribers. So if you would hit the like button and the subscribe, please, and comment down below, even if it's just an emoji about how the movie made you feel, I would so appreciate it. And I'm so glad you guys are here with me for this. And let's keep going. So the Alien review I did was an hour and 37 minutes, and the Aliens review was an hour and 34 minutes. So I'm trying to keep it to the same length or below. You guys will know better because you could see the timestamp, and I'm at like 29, 30 minutes right now. So I'm trying to get through it. I'd like to eventually make them like 59 minutes or below, like under an hour. But I truly do love having deep conversations with you guys about film, about these movies, and I look forward to doing in the future. So thank you. So we get Ellen Ripley getting the nosebleed, which is a nice touch. And this would be the first version that we see of the alien. Instead of a chest burster, they call this the Bambi burster. And it's kind of on four legs because it was birthed from a four-legged animal. So it takes on some of the traits of its host. And this was done by Rod Puppet. And I think it looks amazing. I really like the special effects in this movie. I have a love-hate relationship for. A lot of people I see online, especially younger folks, love to say that the CGI in this movie is horrible because it was in 1992 at the beginning of CG and computer graphics. But honestly, there's not many computer graphics in this movie. It's what it is I will admit it's bad compositing between the Rod Puppet that they have, which looks amazing in the behind the scenes photos. Like I said, if you buy this movie digital, especially on like Apple TV, it'll always come with iTunes Extra with a making of documentary, which I find fascinating. I think the making of documentaries for each one of these movies is as fascinating and as good as the movies themselves. I've seen them a similar number of times. So we get Ellen Ripley shaving her head, which she did for this movie. She said she asked David Fincher initially, like, how do you see Ripley for this movie, in this movie? And she said he kind of thought about it for a minute and said, I don't know, bald? And it wasn't exactly what she was talking about, but she loved that answer, and she was totally down for it. Now, for reshoots, they would have had to pay her in her contract when she came back to shoot, like $45,000, I want to say, every time she had to shave her head was in her contract. So for the reshoots, which we'll go over later, she did don a bald cap, which costs thousands of dollars, but not as much as paying her to shave her head again. So we get the prisoners sitting, and Steven Spielberg said this actor is one of the best living actors that he's ever worked with. So I do love his character, and it is early in his career, and I think he's played similar roles since. But I think this and Jurassic Park: The Lost World are where he really shines, and those are the two movies that I love the most from him. So we get Ellen Ripley kind of wandering out, just like they told her not to do. There in the background, I love this set, which is the dining hall set. They have lots of huge, big action sets for this movie. Big, huge, gigantic, beautiful sets. But there in the background, you can kind of see the remnants of that first script where it was going to be like a wood monastery type planet. You could see hints of it in the background and in the design. I love this room. I love that they're all looking at her. They haven't seen a woman in years, and she's not scared one bit to get out there. And they say she shaved her head because they have a serious lice problem, which you kind of see more in the assembly cut of what they're talking about. She walks up to Dylan, and he's being a hard ass, and he's saying, listen, lady, I'm a rapist and murderer of women. You don't want to know me. You don't want to be around me. And she says, oh, I must make you nervous then. She is, at this point, the Ellen Ripley that you know and remember from these type of movies, from Alien, Aliens, progressing into this one. She is that badass character. in her timeline, it's actually taken place rather quick. She woke up from cryosleep on the Nostromo. They went down to the planet, grabbed the alien, had her whole battle with it, went back in cryosleep, and that's only over the course of a couple days, maybe. And then she wakes up, works for a couple weeks at the docks. She goes on the mission with the Marines and aliens. She deals with those aliens for a couple days, maybe a day or two at the most. And then she goes back into cryosleep and wakes up here dealing with this. So to her, it's been over 57 years since she originally woke up, but to her, it's just been nonstop. This character does not get a break, and I don't know that she plays it like that. I think in this movie she kind of plays it like Sigourney Weaver, having dealt with this character for so many years and so long. But to the character, it's not been that long. She just keeps dealing with horrible, crazy shit, and we sympathize with her as an audience. And we get one of the greatest scenes of the movie, where there's two versions of this, again, with the assembly and theatrical cut. But in the theatrical cut that we're seeing here, he sees the alien down in a hole, and it's the first time we see it shedding. They always find the skin, and you know that it grows larger and larger. This is kind of like a little teenage version of the alien from that baby that we saw a second ago, and you can see that it's shedding. And in the special edition, he thinks it's his dog. He thinks it's the Rottweiler that they added in. So he says, "Spike, is that you?" So they added all that stuff in later in LA. And they filmed this movie, by the way, in Britain, at Pinewood Studios, just like the other two. And he gets sucked into the fan and disintegrated. And they don't know what happened. I think someone says later they realize he couldn't have been sucked in because the fan was blowing, wasn't sucking. But right away, they are not having a good day. They've had a lady crash down from the stars in a ship. They've had the little girl autopsy, the little girl dead, the dude dead, an android. They've had this guy get destroyed. So we as an audience see that the alien attacked him, but they have no proof of it, and they've never dealt with anything like that before. So he's examining it and sees the same, you could see right there, he could see the same type of burns there as the EEV escape vehicle had on the hatches. So he knows there's something similar and that she's not telling him the whole truth. And I believe no matter what version of the film you watch, it's the first time we see the alien spit acid. It spits acid at that guy, and he tumbles back and goes into the fan. That's a new trait that we've never seen in any of the other movies, is them spitting acid. And I guess because it's a teenage version and can't really defend itself, and it's not necessarily going to eat him. But this is the first movie also where we see the alien actually eat people, and we understand that it needs to eat, and it can't. It's not worried necessarily right then about like cocooning or starting a nest. It just wants to eat people, which is a great part of it. We get Superintendent Andrews' office, and I love the design of it. All these movies have great design work, great set dressing, great production design, great props. Everything about these movies is top notch. So like I said before earlier, that they are hard watches and they are kind of dark and filled with terror. There is a beauty to these movies. I didn't want to sound too dour on them and like, don't watch them, it'll just get you depressed. It's not what I mean. I think a lot of hardworking people came together to make these movies, and everything about them is so classy and so beautiful. And this is true art, is what it is. It might be dark, but it's art. I love his coffee there, and he offers Charles Dance's character coffee too, and they have a discussion. We get Ripley finding Bishop in the trash heap, and even though Lance Henriksen didn't have anything to do with this particular part of the movie or playing this version of Bishop that's destroyed, it was completely an animatronic character. So there's a couple of versions of it. The final version, where you get the close-up of him talking in a minute, that was filmed in LA because they needed extra time to make it all work and make it so realistic. But on set, there's shots where you see Ripley talking to him, and he's just there plugged in from behind. Those are the original like Mark I version of the animatronic, but when they got to LA, they finished it up. They made it really spectacular, and all the close-ups of him are shot afterwards in LA. And Lance Henriksen, of course, provides the voice. So we get a shot of the beach. This is a real beach in Britain, and I believe now behind there, it's a testament to the movie, because I know in the behind the scenes making of documentary, it shows them filming these towers, like they have miniatures of them, but they also had matte paintings of them, and the way it's all composited in, like I believe the foreground is something separate from like a studio lot. The beach is real from Britain, and I think the background may be a mix between miniatures and a matte painting off there in the background. So great work, as always, in these movies. The special effects in these movies are unparalleled, except for some problems that we have within this movie with the alien. But when we get there, I'll point those out. So we had a prisoner die, and we have the prisoners getting antsy. There's a woman running around, and this character Dylan here in the middle is kind of their spiritual leader. He's definitely their leader. He's a spiritual leader. They're all a form of Christianity that they've found, and he is obviously concerned. And they have to figure out. She convinces them that there is an alien, and they have to figure out how to deal with it once they can accept that. And we have them wandering around here. The facility is so big that they send out parties to light these candles and map the area, because it's so big and there's no power, and they really just have no idea how big it is, how many corridors, what's in them. Like, there's a scene where they're doing this, and they send out a search party to look around for the guy that died, but they find a cigarette machine and he breaks it open. Like, they've been there forever. So just such a massive sprawling facility, and they're just kind of chill in one spot. So we get these characters on a search party looking for the search party for, like I said, looking for supplies, mapping the corridors, just exploring, really. And they come across that the alien has killed one of their buddies, and all the stuff where it's a full-size alien, like a dude in a suit or the animatronic head that they filmed on film while they were there, is unsurpassed. I mean, I love it all. I think it looks the greatest it's ever looked in this movie. I think the rod puppet just didn't quite work with the way they composited it in. And some of the CG they did use in this movie, this 1992, before Jurassic Park, really, right around the time of Terminator 2, they did the shadow for the rod puppet in CG, and it just does not look good. So we get Bishop getting plugged in. Like I said, all these close-ups of him, they filmed in LA because they really tuned in the animatronic and got the lips to work just right, and they came up with proprietary ways of recording dialogue with their lips and having this play it back. So it looks amazing. His head's, caved in. You could just tell that there's not a person in there like they would do normally, like an alien, where there's like a guy's head sticking through a table. This is a complete animatronic. No living person was involved in his performance, and it's great. It's a character in the movie. It gives a performance, and it's totally an animatronic, and it looks amazing and dark and frightening. So he tells her that they had an alien. He goes back in the recording for the ship and tells her that there was an alien on board. They picked up movement, and that it was with them the whole time, and then it was a face hugger. So she knows at this point that the alien's there, but good luck convincing all these people. She's gone through this before. So of course no one believes her when she finally tells the superintendent that there's a 9-foot alien. And we get her for the first time being vulnerable. I love that she's kind of giving the bedroom eyes right here to Charles Dance's character, and I love that it's the first time in the series that she displays any kind of sexuality, where she has sex with him. They have a conversation that they've both been out there for a while, and she's just kind of real upfront about it, like, do you find me attractive in that way? And they wind up in bed together, and they wake up in bed together, and she's really kind of vulnerable and ladylike with Charles Dance's character. So I thought that was a nice thing to add into this movie, because it would be weird if she's floating around space for 57 years and she's been through everything she's been through and it never came up once. So I'm glad this movie goes there, and she does get the affection of a man. And then the alien that wound up killing the guy in the corridors that they were exploring, they immediately blame Gallic, because there is a scene earlier where the two dudes that were with him on that expedition in the dining hall, they say that they don't want to work with him anymore because he's crazy and he smells. That's what they say. They say he smells weird and he's crazy. We don't want to work with him. And the leader of the group says, well, I don't really care. You're working with him. Matter of fact, you're going out right now with him. But immediately when those two actors die, the people that he was with in the expedition, they blame him immediately, because he's a He was a psychopathic murderer on Earth, and they had just said in the previous scene they don't like him, so they obviously they're not thinking about an alien running around. They think he's a murderer, and they put him in a straitjacket. And the alien comes in, kills Charles Dance. So right away we think that he's kind of like the Michael Biehn character, like Hicks from the first movie, that might be with her the whole way and survive until the end, and maybe they'll be the ones that make it out. But this is about the halfway mark through the movie, and they just kill him, which is a ballsy decision, gutsy decision, but I think it pays off. He gets popped in the head, and a lot of care went into the fake Charles Dance head and body that they do puncture and they film. It looks amazing, and it was a mold of his head. And we get probably the most famous scene of the movie, which is the alien approaching Ripley, and they use this on all the promotional photos, the covers, the back of the VHS. This is the iconic shot of this movie. And for a movie that's kind of hated, and that in the community not like less than half of the people like as an installment, no one argues that this is one of the most iconic shots of the entire series. And we find out later the reason it's not killing her right there, but that she doesn't know at this point, and they don't know, so we'll hang on to it for later. But what a great shot right there with that animatronic head. And then she comes to tell the rest of the prisoners that it's there, because it drags off Charles Dance's body, and there's a great shot of it dragging Charles Dance's body through the ceiling. So she runs to tell them that the alien's on board, and the moment she gets there, the superintendent tells her to shut up and get this stark raving lunatic woman out of here, and the alien grabs him and drags him up into the air shafts. And I love that this character with the chair right here on the right, the scene just, they're all quiet and just looking at what happened and all the blood pouring out. And that character with the chair just says, fuck. And then the scene ends. And I've always loved that line. Like, if there's a favorite line from this movie, it's just that dude saying, fuck. Because they just can't believe what's going on. So now they all know, obviously, something just grabbed a grown man and lifted it. They all got a good look at it. So there's no question that there's an alien, like about a 9-foot creature in their facility that eats people. They're sitting around trying to figure out what to do, and she's trying to explain to them that the company doesn't give a shit about them. The company wants this thing no matter what, and she kind of explains the whole a little abbreviated story of what she's been through. And great shot. This is kind of the color palette of this movie. That's why I got the yellow light back there. I try to put that to the main color of whatever the movie is. This movie does have a serious brown, orange, yellow kind of tint to it. And I love physically how it looks. I think people that don't like the story and people who don't like this movie, I don't think anyone argues that it isn't a beautiful movie, because it is. It's a beautiful movie. I love the color palette. And I should say, like, we're on shot deck here. You could see kind of the color palette of the movie forming. That's all of the photos, so you can kind of see what I mean. This orange and brown and earth colors kind of show up throughout the movie. And then this is a good time to mention shot deck. Like I said, it's a great tool. Pulls up still frames of every movie, so I can go through them and look at them. And I kind of love this format. And this is what I've been doing, so I'm sure it'll change over time, but this is the format I love doing now. And like I said, it's my third podcast, so thank you all if you're still here. Oh my god, thank you so much. So we get them explaining the facility to Ripley, and that there's a toxic waste disposal room where if they do trap it in there, nothing gets out of that room, because it's made for that. It's made for nothing to escape. No way in, no way out. Just that one door. And they come up with a plan quickly to trap it in there. And another reason I love the assembly cut or the special edition over the theatrical cut is because there is a whole story arc where they do get it in there and lock it in there, and that prisoner Galek winds up killing someone and escaping and letting it out because he's infatuated with it, and he's a psychopath and he's crazy. And I love that story arc. I don't know why they cut it, but it's so much better in the movie. So she's kind of realizing that this might be actually a viable plan. Just get it in there. And they figure out to get it in there, they have to burn it out of the air shafts. So they don't have any weapons on this planet. I love that about this movie, that there's no weapons. She asks if there's flashlights. They say, yeah, but there's no batteries. She asks if the cameras work. He says, I told you nothing works here. I mean, it's just, they got four walls and a roof, and that's pretty much what they work with, like minimal supplies. They get supplied by the company every so often. So what they do figure out is that what they do have is this explosive liquid. So they're planning their plan is to set off fires and explosions in all the air ducts and force it out into that toxic waste dump. And this is also where she asks, why do you call him 85? And he says, when he first got here, we took a look at his personnel file, and it's his IQ. And just a moody atmosphere. I love that for this movie. Like I said, the alien looks just about as good as it's ever looked. In one of these movies, the full-size version of the alien, whenever we see it with the animatronic head, they had just made leaps and strides past 1979, I think, when the alien first appeared. And I love that it's a little different. It has very ladylike lips there, as you could see, which was an H.R. Geiger concept. And in the behind the scenes, H.R. Geiger, who designed the original Alien, did come on board for about a month and supplied them with some concept art. But it didn't really pan out because they were going so fast and it was already in production that they didn't wind up using most of it. But that was one of the features that he had on his Alien, was the more ladylike lips. And she's not feeling so hot at this point. She kind of knows something up. And I don't think that she has any idea that she has an alien in her, because in her experience, they've always bursted out pretty fast. And the fact that she's still alive, it's got to be something else. So she runs a diagnostic on herself. But little does she know she has a queen alien inside her, which the gestation period apparently is a lot longer for. And in the special edition, we get a really good look of the alien queen with the crown on. Kind of, you can tell it's a queen facehugger, and it's sitting right on her heart. It's kind of resting on her heart in her chest. So she kind of knows right away that she has a feeling, because the alien didn't kill her before. That was why it didn't kill her, because she has an alien queen inside of her, growing. And we get the satellite communicating with the company, because the company has expedited their people to get to that colony and get that sample of the xenomorph. Because, like always, they want it for the bioweapons division. So we see the satellite aligning to their ship. And he tells Ripley she wants him to send a message to the company saying that there's been a toxic spill. Don't come. Everything's contaminated, and he won't do it. He says, I'm going home, because he's not actually a prisoner. He's one of the employees that stayed for a rotation. So he's like, I'm going home. I'm not sending that message, and he won't send it. And then we get the neuroscan that she did, where she found out that the alien queen is inside her. We find out that the company also received that, because it says EEV neuroscan data received, expediting medevac team arrival within 2 hours. So they got there quick for a whole universe out there, and they're dozens of light years away from her. They sent them there really quick, because they know what they got. We get one of the great miniature shots in the movie of the Weyland-Yutani ship coming into the planet, coming into orbit. And she decides to go look for it down in this dungeon, which looks so cool. That thing on the left there almost looks like the wheel they spin on that game show, Price is Right. But the design is there. One of the changes from the script to the actual film movie is this took place up in the air shafts and the ceiling, and she goes down to a basement, which is classic horror movie stuff. She goes down to the basement to look for it, because she knows, she has a theory at least, that it won't kill her. She doesn't know what it'll do if she's provoked, but she doesn't think it'll kill her, because it could sense the alien queen inside her. I believe from the books and the screenplay and what we see in the movie, you get the idea that the royal facehugger is able to logistically, based on how many people are here, that she's got one in her, and that it already made an alien facehug something else. I think the queen facehugger can implant two aliens, a drone or a warrior, and the queen, for the ones that carry the queen. And one of the deleted scenes from the assembly cut is someone holding up at the beginning what you could tell is a royal facehugger. So it's a big, different facehugger than the one we get in the movie, and you can tell it's a royal one. So that's what it would do. That's why there's an alien there ready, and she has one inside her, a queen, from one facehugger that got on the ship. And then they're carrying out their plan to keep on going with the getting the alien into the toxic waste disposal and trapping it in there. And I think they're planning on dumping hot lead on it once for the mold. You know, there's a mold for metal. So all these scenes of them running through these corridors are great, really great sets. I love the set design of those corridors. Kind of take it back to the original, real claustrophobic feel, even though they're on a big planet. And this is a version of the rod puppet alien. You kind of see there that it looks great in the behind the scenes making of stuff. The rod puppet itself looks amazing and it moves really fluid and great. Just the compositing of it into the movie doesn't quite work for me, whether it's the lighting or the rough edges around it, just the CG shadows that they make with it. It looks so much better in the behind the scenes and the making of when it's just on its own being filmed with a camera. But I still love this movie. I still think it holds up today. You could watch it and escape reality. There's the full size alien, which looks so much better. It just doesn't go with the rod puppet version. I love that shot of the alien, and we get a lot of the alien in this movie, and I love that they took it back to just be one alien. So she winds up telling Dylan that she has one of inside her, and she explains to him how it got there. And she asks him to kill her because she doesn't have the heart to do it herself and the alien won't do it. And he's got an axe. So she wants him to kill her. And she kind of goes into a kind of religious pose here. And she's completely ready to die. And he strikes close to her, but he tells her, listen, if it won't kill you, then we could use that. We need all the help we can get. And he's not a murderer anymore. And he's found religion. So he's just not into doing it. And, I love that he still strikes and kind of scares her and makes her think he's going to do it, but doesn't actually do it. So we get the motivational speech by Dylan here. They're trying to let him know. I think his famous line is he says, do you want to die on your feet fighting or die on your fucking knees begging, you know? So he gives him a real motivational speech. The acting's great. Like I said, this is like a Shakespearean cast. You could have done a Shakespeare play with all these characters. So we get them getting close to capturing the beast, as they call it, or the dragon, some of them call it. They're running in and out of these corridors, which is great. A great scene in the movie is them running through the corridors, the camera work within the corridors. The lighting director talks about in the making of that it was so hard to hide the lighting in those corridors, so they did a lot of tricks to make it work, but they were able to, with the Steadicam, flip the camera upside down, so the alien looks like it's running on the walls and on the ceiling, which was kind of a happy mistake. So I love all those shots. And their main goal right now is to trap it in the toxic waste dump in the mold that they could pour lead into. Great shot. I love the metallic teeth. Like I said, every shot of the alien where it's an animatronic head or a guy in a suit in this movie is kind of spectacular. And we get more of it than we saw in Alien. And I think Aliens, I think there's a lot. The fact that it goes back to one single alien kind of makes it a character and gives it its moments. It looks amazing. This is the greatest movie monster that's ever been created, I think, right? I mean, it's up there with all the Universal monsters and stuff. And then we get to the end of the movie where they've trapped it in the foundry. And we get Bishop 2 showing up and the Weyland-Yutani team showing up. And he's got a whole team with him. They call them, I believe in canon, they're called like dog catchers for nicknames. They all have kind of big, bulky suits and metal masks. Like they have a team at this point now to deal with the alien if they ever come across it. So this team, you could tell, is specialized for them. They have a cage with them that they unfurl. So this team is, they think, specialized in capturing the alien. And we get the reveal of Bishop saying, oh, you think I'm an android, you think I'm the same model as Bishop, because that's what she says. And he says, no, I'm his creator, I'm real, I'm a human. The company sent me to show a friendly face and let you know how important it is, how important you are to us. A bunch of bullshit. They just want to capture the alien. He's got a whole team back there with cages and suits on to get the alien. He's like, no, we just care about you, which is, everyone knows is bullshit. And then we get her deciding to not trust him and one of the characters hits Bishop over the head and makes him bleed red blood and his ears kind of hanging off, which to me is definitive that he is a human. There's like fan theories, and I don't want to say crazy theories, but there's alternate theories that he's just a new type of android that has red blood and kind of looks like a human, and his ears all hanging off, and he doesn't seem to be bothered by it. And his name in the credits is Bishop too. So some people tend to think that he is an android still, but I think he's exactly right. I think that's the creator of Bishop, and he's high up in the company, and they sent him. We get Dylan's death scene where he knows that the alien won't kill her and won't go through her to get to him. So the alien just follows him into the foundry and into the lead mold. So he kind of grabs her and takes her back, and they realize it's working, and they lead it right into where they want it. And I love the color palette. I love the oranges, the browns, the reds in this movie. Just make it stand out in the whole series, I think. And then he tells her to climb because it doesn't want her, obviously, because she's got a queen in it. All it wants is him. So he convinces her to climb. And he stays down there. The alien winds up killing Dylan. But out of the whole series, I think he puts up the best fight. He straight up kind of like fist fights and wrestles with the alien for quite a while in movie terms. It's like 60 seconds of you could still hear him yelling at it and calling it names and cursing and fighting with it. Because this is a more sleek, younger alien than we've seen. So we get the hot lead being poured on the alien. I love that. I love that shot of the alien where the hot lead comes pouring down on it, and it kind of looks up and notices what's happening, and it's trapped in there. And it winds up coming up and out of the lead, because there always is a second ending in these movies. There's kind of a surprise ending, a little fourth act to every movie in the series. So the alien does pop up, and they hit the sprinklers, and we get a foreshadowing of it earlier with a bucket that was on fire and in the fire, and the sprinklers come on and it kind of deforms and cracks. And it's one of the few CG shots in this movie is the alien skull cracking up. So turning the sprinklers on and the change of temperature so quickly and dramatically just kind of explodes the alien. And then we get the famous scene from this movie. She is wearing a bald cap, like I mentioned. They didn't want to pay her for shaving her head, so they did a badass bald cap. In the theatrical cut, they wound up adding in post-production in LA, reshooting this, where the queen chest burster comes out of her chest, bursts out of her chest, and she grabs it and holds onto it all the way into the fire, almost like she's embracing a child, or also making sure that it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't jump or anything, and it's going in that fire with her. That was an addition. In the assembly cut, she just falls in there, and I think I prefer in that aspect the theatrical cut, because it lets you know that she was screwed no matter what. It was going to come out of her and she was going to die, so she had to do this. In the assembly cut, where it doesn't come out of her chest, I think you get the feeling that she could have went with the company and got put in cryo, and they probably would have taken it out of her and stuff. So there was a chance there that, she jumps into the fire with nothing happening. I prefer the queen chest burster, which looks great. You can tell it's a queen. I prefer it coming out of her right at the last minute, and this Terminator 2 type ending where she falls into the flames. I think I've heard in the behind the scenes that was one of the issues that they wanted to add the queen chest burster coming out, was because they thought it was a little too close to Terminator 2, which had just come out. And classic scene of her in the Weyland-Yutani shirt, going into that Christ-like pose again and sacrificing herself for humanity. I'm sure David Fincher had that in mind when he filmed the shot. And then we kind of get a wrap up of the movie where everything's kind of shutting down. The Weyland-Yutani team leaves. All the lights start going off. Everything's powered down, and they're back to square one. No alien. All the traces of it are destroyed. The one alien's dead and fell into the lead. She's jumped into the fire with the queen, and it was kind of all for naught. And then last shot of the movie, we get Weyland-Yutani, work prison, Fury 161. Closed and sealed, custodial presence terminated, remaining refining equipment to be sold to scrap. And that's the last shot of the movie. We made it, guys. I wanted to try to keep these shorter than my previous videos, So we're at an hour and 4 minutes right now. My Alien review was an hour and 37 minutes, and I did that with my friend Katie, so definitely go check that out if this is your first video on my channel. The Aliens 1986 deep dive that I did was about the same, an hour and 32 minutes. I was trying to keep this one to like 59 minutes or below, and I did pretty good. We're at an hour and 5. So I hope I didn't have to rush through it so much. I'm still getting better at these. Like I said, this is my third podcast ever that I've pressed record. They say the hardest part is pressing record, so it's the third time I've done it. I appreciate all you guys. Let me pull myself up here. Let me know in the comments if you're still here at the end. If you do, you're a madman, you're crazy. I love you and I appreciate you. This is what I would like to do. I enjoy it. I think it's entertaining. I think I've found a film community on YouTube that I enjoy these videos from other people. And I have a feeling they're only going to get better and better. Feeling a lot more comfortable. I've made what I could out of this space. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be logging off now. And please, like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and let me know if you were still here at the end. And if you haven't seen this movie, go buy it immediately. I'd recommend, if you buy it on Apple TV, you can get iTunes Extra with the assembly cut of the movie and the making of behind the scenes documentary. I think next we're going to be doing Predator 1987 with my friend Katie. So stay tuned for that. I'd also like to get Nope 2022 done because I love that movie. And I'm still thinking of movies after that. So if you have any suggestions, please leave it down below. And thank you as always. And I look forward to being with you again.